that indeed we are here to bid farewell to a real giant in our country and in the world. And it's no surprise that the President of Ghana will be joining us here tomorrow to pay his respect, President Akufo-Addo, to pay his respect to Bra Hugh, as well as the former President of Zambia, President Banda, are going to be with us here tomorrow. And we are honored because we are bidding farewell to a real hero. A baobab tree, the great one of Africa, has fallen. I'm reminded of the voice of the ancients, which says, when a big tree falls, the earth is bound to shake. We have seen the manifestation of this idiomatic expression with the passing of Bra Hugh, when the news broke that he had shuffled off this mortal coil, started spreading like wildfire, the earth trembled. Indeed, the passing of our legend was an earth-shattering experience. In a paradoxical sense, this was also a moment of reckoning for Bra Hugh's international stature and legacy. Shortly after the announcement of the shocking news of his passing on Tuesday, the 23rd of January, we heard echoes of condolences rattling from across the globe. Music lovers, admiring fans, and his contemporaries across the globe spoke with one voice, expressing their profound sense of loss at the fall of this colossus. Bra Hugh, a giant who flew the South African flag high for several decades. The messages received from prominent personalities like American actor Samuel L. Jackson, legendary composer and musician Quincy Jones, and Paul Simon, with whom he performed on many occasions, bear testimony to the enormity of the man we are here bidding farewell today. These eulogies demonstrated quite clearly that much as he was a great patriot who was deeply rooted in his cultural nuances of his people, he was also an internationalist par excellence. In his music career that spans over 6 decades, Bra Hugh was a world-class musician, great cultural ambassador for South Africa, and an advocate of national unity and social cohesion. His dynamic personality and cosmopolitan background inadvertently positioned him as an epitome of our diverse society. The influence of different cultures is also palpable in his sounds and rhythms, which comprise a fusion of various African rhythms with the influence of jazz and funk. Bra Hugh was very proud of his mixed ancestry, which included Scottish, Ndebele, and Batlokwa lineage. He could speak most of South African languages, as well as numerous others spoken by different communities across the African continent and the world over. He was diversity personified in Sophia Town, Palance, in Kofifi Lingo, Eva Sajida van der Stek. A tiger, a hell of a tiger. His rise from humble beginnings in the dusty township of Kwakuka outside Emalahleni in Mpumalanga province to become a venerated global icon should remain a source of inspiration to generations of South African artists. He came into prominence as a budding musician under the tutelage of Father Trevor Adelson in Sophiatown in the 50s. Together with a number of his peers, including his cousin and longtime companion, Bra Jonas Gwangwa, Bra Hugh performed as a member of a group known as the Huddleston Band. It was through the assistance of Father Huddleston that he received the most prized possession, the trumpet from the great Louis Armstrong in 1956. He was only 16 at the time. The iconic image, which I think all of us know, of a young Hugh Masekela jumping in the air in jubilation demonstrates his passion for music. It also gives a glimpse of a great future in a long musical journey. In 1959, he was one of the founding members of Jazz Epistles, alongside maestros like Gwangwa, Dola Brand, and later to be known as Abdullah Ibrahim, and Kipi Mekets, amongst others. Together they released their debut album, The Jazz Epistles, Volume 1, the very first jazz LP released in South Africa. I hope all of us still remember LPs, those of us. But it was a pleasure for us working with Mr. and Mrs. Tibos Mlife to organize a reunion for the Jazz Epistles in 2016. That project is still continuing because the second part of it is about the documentation of these giants of ours. In the beginning of the 1960s, the political atmosphere became more volatile and the apartheid government more ruthless, with political organizations banned and political activists incarcerated to long prison sentences, whilst others paid the ultimate price in the hands of the security police. This was the period in which the apartheid government enacted draconian laws, when the oppressed embarked on the passive resistance campaign, when unarmed peaceful marchers were brutally murdered in Sharpeville, and when countless of liberation struggle leaders faced treason charges. It was during this period that Bra Hugh joined the exodus of South African politicians, artists, and activists who streamed out of the country to wage a war against the apartheid regime from exile. In the 3 decades of exile, he lived and performed in different countries, including the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Canada, Nigeria, Botswana, Senegal, and many others. In his lifelong global voyage, he was armed with his horn, and his music touched nations. Hy was Ajita van Stek, a hell of a tiger. One of his most popular songs, and also one of my personal favorite, The Grazing in the Grass, was performed by some of the internationally acclaimed artists like Stevie Wonder. Bra Hugh was more than just a musician. He was a global icon who flew our flag high at international stages for many, many years. In songs like Stimela, also known as the Coal Train, he reflects on the plight of migrant laborers who, in their quest for resources to feed their families, travel on trains to the mines in Johannesburg. The song also speaks to the collective exploitation of African people across the region who work in the mines and get paid pittance. He sings, "There's a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There's a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There's a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Botswana, from Swaziland, from all the hinterland of the southern and central Africa. This train carries young and old African men who are conscripted to come and work on the contract in the gold and mineral mines of Johannesburg. His recording of another song, Bring Back Nelson Mandela, in 1987, was a source of motivation to the liberation struggle, helped to mobilize support for the struggle and to mount pressure on the apartheid government. Back home to Soweto jolted us into action. That is why we can say today that Bra Hugh, a Jida from Van der Steeg, a tiger, a Heluva tiger. He gave us hope that our global icon, right there, Bradon? He gave us hope that our global icon, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, who would have turned 100 had he lived this year, would finally unshackle the chains and the prison doors shall be opened. It encouraged us to keep persevering and to fight for freedom and democracy. Indeed, the will of the people prevailed in 1994. Bra Hugh's voice did not vanish with the dawn of democratic order in 1994. He remained vocal against the injustices of the world. He continued his activism even after the jettisoning of apartheid, serving as the advocate of national identity and African pride. In his acceptance speech, when the University of the Witwatersrand bestowed an honorary doctorate to him last year, Bra Hugh was very emphatic on the question of identity. He urged South Africans, particularly young people, to reclaim their cultures and heritage. His influence was felt across the various arts disciplines, including theater, film, and comedy. Although he issued a statement in October last year informing the public about his ailment, it never dawned on many of us that the coal train could be nearing its final station. Personally, I was still looking forward to working with him in a number of projects additional to some we have that seek to create an enabling environment for the promotion of the arts, culture, and heritage sector. We believe that our living human treasures, who are here with us, many of them today, the legends, have an important role to play in assisting aspirant artists to hone their skills. It is against this backdrop that our department initiated the formation of the Living Legends Legacy Program, which Bra Hugh was part of. Our strategic objective in this program is to ensure that there is transference of skills, knowledge and experience to the younger generation, whilst at the same time creating opportunities for our legends to continue pursuing their careers. It's also meant to celebrate them and their lives whilst they are still alive. In addition, celebrating our legends whilst they are still alive, we also stimulated dynamic intergenerational interaction to ensure transference of skills to younger generations. The arts fraternity has lost one of its greatest assets. One of the projects that Bra Hugh was working on together with ourselves as government and the department was paying homage to one of South Africa's musical geniuses, Princess Makoko. For Bra Hugh to recognize and immortalize Princess Makoko in this fashion was a clear demonstration of his selfless dedication to the preservation of our heritage. Those who do not know who Princess Makoko was the mother to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. His other preoccupation was the development of younger artists. In his long career, Bra Hugh has worked with a number of younger artists. One of them was performing here, Lira, Thandi Swamazwai, DJ Black Coffee, and many, many others. Bra Hugh was also a fervent campaigner against substance abuse. He was involved with several other projects that add enormous value to the development of our society. He was a tiger, a hell of a tiger. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indisputable that Bra Hugh's passing leaves a nation poorer. His passing in the midst of all our developmental efforts is a major blow to the soul of the nation. The loss of an individual, let alone a global icon like Bra Hugh, is never easy to deal with. In time, however, we'll find solace in the indelible legacy he has bequeathed the world of music and the world of culture and heritage and South Africa heritage broadly. Regardless of how much he interacted with various cultures of the world, he was never assimilated. He was never swallowed over and made an appendage of others. Instead, he remained, Instead, he remained true to his African roots and the heritage of his forebears. I believe this is one of the most important values to learn from this teacher. Bra Hugh will be remembered as a world-class musician and a consummate entertainer who dedicated his life to the struggle of the oppressed. He is the flame that burnt bright in the darkest hour of segregation, thus bringing the plight of the oppressed in South Africa to the attention of the world. He was, in fact, at the forefront of the anti-apartheid movement, mobilizing the world to pledge solidarity and actively support our struggle against oppressive apartheid system. The celebration of the lives of our departed patriots is not just about an act of commemoration, but it is also about the preservation of our heritage as a means of promoting our own national identity as a nation. The challenge is for us to emulate his selflessness and uphold his legacy, as well as that of a pantheon of other extraordinary South Africans who have made enormous contribution to society. We convey our heartfelt condolences to the Masekela family, the whole of the family, Sis Barbara and the entire family. Let us rejoice in the realization that Bra Hugh contributed meaningfully to humanity during his lifetime. Although he can no longer compose new songs, grace our stages, and blow the trumpet, we know that his thundering voice will resound beyond the grave. Even death cannot silence his voice. Bra Hugh lives through his music. May his soul rest in peace. Ngiyabonga.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about to be show time, right? Because that's what we promised, right? And you know, when it's show time, you also get to participate, okay? I'm encouraging you that later on when it gets underway, that you get involved, you get into the groove. As they say, your body won't move if you can't feel the groove.
Let those